Hey, everybody, welcome back to Monday All Weekend. It's all three of us here on this fine evening. Hey,
You seem like you came in there a little hot.
I came in there strong, man, as you should always open up a live.
Well, I
Just
was
want to
thinking hot,
look,
like someone
just
kicked
just a quick
her.
introduction. Got myself, I'm Joe. Got Wyatt right here, and you got Josh below me. So Joe, Josh, and Wyatt, or whatever order you want to put it in. Um, So we're gonna do two big things tonight. We're gonna talk about
Yeah,
two really fascinating pieces of news. First, we're gonna look at the reaction, the horrible reaction to the the Rebel Moon Part Two. All right. Full disclosure, we haven't watched it yet, but we are going to be looking at the reaction to it, and it's not good. It's really not good. We're also going to talk at length
yeah,
about the Chosen, specifically Chosen season 4,
yeah.
and that some breaking news. Sort of breaking news. It's some things that were hinted at around the Chosen season 5. Okay.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, I mean, you went and watched all of the cheesing. You
we are cheesing. Thank you. I
let me
appreciate the blessing.
let me
Thank you.
recoup you
God bless you
recoup right
too.
here. You watched all of season 4, but we made some videos on that specifically for our channel. But we're talking about the release dates and things that
Right.
Dallas did a live stream for all yesterday.
Yesterday. All right. So I do want to ask you guys, and I want to ask the people in the chat, if do we hit spoilers at all? Like, do I even do any spoilers for season 4, or do I just stay
Uh,
away from it
I think we
completely?
stay away from it. Let's see if we can stay away from it. If
There's
if
one thing about season 4 that I'd like to disclose, but I don't know if it's relevant for people that
Hey,
haven't seen it,
if we
right?
do it, then we'll just
spoiler
make
alert!
sure that we'll say
I don't know if you know this, but Jesus died on a cross. That-
What? Oh,
that's a
no,
spoiler for
not in
this
season
show.
4. That's not happening in
No.
season
Oh.
4.
in season 4.
All right, so we got let's see, Tumbleweed Moon 777. That's interesting use of sevens.
Mhm.
Um, they've seen all of season 4. It was awesome. So I'm sure
Yeah.
this person would love for me to talk about it at length. Bring tissues. Yeah, you're right. It is emotional.
If
Um,
we do a spoiler, we'll make sure to put down a disclaimer for it.
I'll lay down a disclaimer. Let's
Mhm.
first talk about Rebel Moon. As
Yeah.
people
Well,
filter in,
let's get on this.
we will talk about Chosen at length. Okay.
Yeah.
This Zach should go from Zack Schneider to Dallas Jenkins. That's a big
Yeah,
transition.
it is a big
Mhm.
transition. Hey, looks like we got MJ in the chat.
We do.
Howdy.
Hey,
Hey,
Hey.
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 All right. So let's first react to this. Obviously, so we watched Rebel Moon Part 1. Almost everybody was like, "Hey, this is not
hey,
that fascinating. Hey, this is not
hey,
that great."
hey. This
Um,
ain't great.
so we got the Rotten Tomatoes score for Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire. The critics reviews, or the critics rating, was 21, which is a smashed tomato.
Yuck.
And then the audience score, all audience score, was 58%. That is not good.
I
That's
mean,
really
Yeah.
not good, right?
the only thing that makes it good about a smashed tomato is like, as a 1% Italian man, I
All
like
right,
some
let's
tomato
move
sauce.
on. All right, okay.
I do
But
like
let's
me some good tomato sauce.
But this is even more interesting. So if we take a look at, the release of Rebel Moon Part 2, this is supposed to be kind of what the first movie's leading up to. This is supposed to be the
Yeah.
awesome part of the story.
Right.
And it actually fell. It went further down.
What a
6
dichotomy. What a dichotomy of film that we got with Dune Part 1 and Part 2 versus Rebel Moon Part 1 and Part 2.
So Rebel Moon is sitting at a 16% critic score and a 53% audience score.
Yeesh.
It's not too different, but it went down. And this is supposed to, if one of these was supposed to go up even slightly, it was supposed to be part 2, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you did all the setup in the first movie and it's all supposed to be execution in the second.
It's kind of like saying, all of the Lord of the Rings are great, but Return of the King
Mhm.
is amazing. You know what
But
I mean?
from what I've heard about the movie, the first half of it is, um, uh, harvesting grain,
Yeah.
a training montage, and talking about backstories. That's basically I heard a
Did you
synopsis.
not watch the first movie?
No, I'm talking about the first half of the second movie.
Oh, gotcha.
That's what that's what I've heard the first half of the movie is, and then the second
Mhm.
half is supposed to be your action adventure-y stuff.
Yeah, and it really I am gonna watch it because I watched the first one and I need to solidify my own thoughts here and I need to really truly feel this.
Mhm.
Yeah.
um, but I'm not and okay, here's the big question. Because Zack Snyder is just so excited about his director cuts.
Yeah. He
Is the
talked at
director cut
length
because for sure,
on
for
Joe
sure,
Rogan.
for sure, there's going to be articles or something written, and you could quote me on this. That's going to be like, there's still hope for the underwhelming Rebel Moon with the
Mm.
Schneider director's cut. You know what I
I
mean?
swear, if he comes out and gives us a zoomed in small screen on top of with black bars around all of the video, I am going to just, cancel my Netflix subscription.
Look,
Well,
Joshua's
I mean, it
referencing.
might be a better movie if it's smaller and you kinda have to
Yeah,
squint
you
and
can
turn
Yeah,
your
you
head and
gotta-
blur your eyes to
I
see it.
swear.
Joshua is referring to when he did the Schneider cut for Justice League, and
Mhm.
Oh my
he had to leave
god.
during production. He had a tragedy in his family, and they kind of destroyed his vision of the movie. So he came back, made it an extra hour and a half longer, and he made it 4:3 aspect ratio instead of full anamorphic or 16:9 at least.
Mhm.
He just made it 4:3, so we had black bars, and he did that. He did that as his justification was, I wanted people when they saw the footage to know this one's my version, right? Which is kind of a weird reason
He
because
I mean, he changed a lot too. He made the monster bad guy, who I don't even know is the character, a lot different animation wise.
That's
He
the best
added a
part of the
few
movie was how
scenes.
the bad guy looked.
Yeah, but
So
it was not worth it.
so, regarding Rebel Moon, obviously, we can't talk about, like, the contents of the movie since we haven't sat down and watched it, but I sorta
Yeah.
wanna use this topic as a little bit of a launching point to kinda discuss something that we've talked about in the past.
okay.
Um, we kinda mentioned with Dune, with movies like Rebel Moon and movies like, The Creator, that it feels like we're sorta entering an age of high concept sci-fi.
Yes.
Is it with the failure of these movies, do you think that is a hindrance, maybe a stumbling block in the road of an era of high concept sci-fi? I mean, right off the bat, I
Yeah.
mean, just getting started into this.
I don't think it's a stumbling block for sci-fi high concept. I think it's a stumbling block for Zack Schneider. I think
Was it
this might slow him down a bit. You know what I
let
mean?
me let me be corrected or not, because I'm pretty sure I'm recalling this correctly. Didn't Zach bring this to Disney and say, "Let's make this a Star Wars film"?
I think that was
And
originally what it was for, yeah.
and
Well, I do have the story.
they denied him and said, "No, we don't want this as a Star Wars film." Maybe Disney for once made a good choice.
That's probably the best decision they've made in the last
Yeah,
10 to 15 years is
Well,
saying
yeah.
no to this idea.
this was the concept for Rebel Moon was not originally a Star Wars. It was kind of what it is.
Mhm.
And what he did was when he was in film school, they had to do like a on the spot synopsis or on the spot kind of concept. And
Yeah.
he just came up with it. And then he put it in his back pocket. He eventually pulled it out and said, "Could this be a Star Wars film?" Pitched it to Disney.
Wow,
They
what was
entertained it.
this? What was this college project? Come up with something off the top of your head, something unique and creative. Seven Samurai in space.
Yeah,
Yeah,
basically.
Star Wars Seven Samurai, and they're like, Zach, that's not an original idea. You can't use this.
He's like,
Neither of those
but
things
it's a
are original
mashup.
ideas.
But it's a
Evan
mashup.
Samurai.
No, he's probably said Magnificent Seven Star Wars mashup, and they were like, neither of those two things are original ideas. Those are both off of something previous, and
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It was a it was a weird idea he had that he just held on to. And for some reason, Netflix is like, go for it, Zach.
Look, there's
Go for
nothing
it.
there's nothing inherently wrong with the idea, but the execution was poor. And I think what that really does is put the spotlight on Zach. I
Mm.
mean, after all these years, it's felt like he sort of slipped through the cracks, and people have been like,
Yeah.
he's amazing, he's a genius. I think these two movies prove that maybe he's not that great after all.
Look, so what kind of launched him into his high status was honestly 300,
Mhm.
okay?
Yeah.
Which he did an
By
interesting idea
accidental.
with a unique story and say, let's take this comic, right?
Mhm.
And let's make it look like this. And that was a good idea. It worked for that story. Past that, I feel like he's been chasing
And then he got lucky, I think, with Superman.
sort of, yeah. I mean, and he also
He did.
you talk about Man of Steel,
Steel.
right?
Mhm.
Chris Nolan was producing that.
Yeah.
Do you think Chris Nolan was gonna let something completely be horrible?
Yeah.
You know
Or
what I mean?
even just Henry Cavill with his glow up in that movie and go from something like
Yeah, that was a big
the
selling
Count of
point.
Monte Cristo to that.
Mhm.
Count of Monte Cristo to that.
I mean, seriously, I hadn't seen him in anything.
Yeah.
Uh,
He came out swinging.
yeah.
Henry
More like
Cavill came out
Glass
strong.
with his
But I do really think
Watchmen is another Schneider movie.
right.
The Watchmen, which was
I've not seen The Watchmen.
Got a lot of
another
praise
kind
for that.
It's another big kind of pop culture, dark superhero thing. But it just with these sci-fi movies, it seems like he's relying too heavily on all of the tropes,
Yeah.
and it's not actual storytelling.
He's good at the bro movies. And I would love to him and what's this guy that like sparks a lot?
Michael Bay.
Michael Bay. I would love them to just co-direct something.
You would love them to do that.
Yeah, a big, just
No,
a big
like-
bro movie.
I know they've already done it, but this is just an idea. This is not what I wanted to do, but a remake of Point Break. Maybe they get together and make a remake of Point Break. That's just like up their alley, and that would work for them. Stay away from original content because you're not that good at.
Well,
your
hold on.
writing.
Don't just start throwing out you're not that good at original content, because he is. He just has to have the right story, and he has to put his mind in the right place. He's okay. He did 300. He did Watchmen.
No. None of those were his ideas. Those were 300 and the
No.
Watchmen
Okay,
were
let's
both
say this.
comics.
What is Zack
So was
Snyder good at?
Superman, so was Batman. I tell you what he's good at. He's good at
Recreating
BSing his
ideas.
way into, into franchises. That's what he's good at.
Well, okay, this is what I think he's good
And now
at.
he's not in a franchise. He's making his own stuff, and it's
I think
Garbage.
color and composition, he has a very unique take, and I think a lot of it's very beautiful. When he relies too heavily on animation, maybe not. Like when he's animating characters, that's kind of when it falls
But I
apart.
mean, if you gave a chimpanzee a bucket of paint, yeah, it would have a unique take on color too.
Sure.
It's not a unique take on color. It's a good take on color.
Okay.
It's
All right.
No, like visually, he's
Give
an
him a
artist,
sparkler.
and I do believe that visually he's an
Sparks.
artist. I think the animation in Zack Snyder's Justice League was atrocious,
Except for Steppenwolf.
but there's like if you look at 300, if you look at Rebel Moon, visually it's really pretty. Like he's really a visual artist in my opinion. I think he's an
It was
outside of the box
okay.
visual artist.
I think some things in Rebel Moon look good, and some things look like trash.
Yeah.
There's always going to be trash with the quick cutaways and
Mhm.
stuff, but when he has that composition of her tilling the earth and there's the glowing moon,
Yeah,
that's behind it.
That's some good looking stuff.
Beautiful. It's
If
really
the whole
pretty.
movie looked and felt like that, like it had passion behind it, then yeah.
There's just moments of that, right? And but I think the audience has spoken, and even the people that love Zack Snyder can't necessarily watch this. They're
Mhm.
not watching this and being like, I'm gonna I'm gonna say it's good because I'm diehard or
So
something.
I'm gonna
I don't know.
look. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna search. I want to find the person who is defending this movie. I want to find them. I want to find the person who is giving this a really good review on YouTube, and I
I
want to
would
watch
give
their
it.
video to see. I want to
What
see
points they make?
what points they make. I'm super.
I'm gonna
interested.
give it a an 8 out of 10.
What are you rating it? You haven't seen it.
I haven't seen it.
Josh
It's-
is over here rating stuff he hasn't seen.
I mean, if the reviews are anything to go by, it's definitely
No,
worse than the first one.
To be honest, I peeped at the first one. I tried to watch it genuinely,
Mhm.
and I just
Uh-huh.
got so bored I walked away from it.
All right. Well, I until we see it, I don't know how much we could say about it other than like we kind of guessed this was coming. We thought it could be a little better than the first one,
Mhm.
but apparently not. So I'm gonna watch it, and then I don't know. I may or may not talk about it afterwards, but I will watch it just because I watched the first one. Now let's get into The Chosen. Okay.
Okay.
I feel like this is what people are joining us for. People saw The Chosen and they just all jumped on the chat.
All right, so
Live.
breaking news. All right, for everybody waiting, except for Tumbleweed and myself. Everybody waiting for The Chosen to come out streaming. We don't have a date yet, but in the live stream,
Big lead up.
Dallas did say it's not going to be months or in November or September. He said in the live stream, it is most likely going to be between 4 and 7 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
For season 4 to be released for free. And he did say that it is going to be released over the course of a couple weeks, 2 episodes a week. All right.
Yes.
Usually they do 1 episode a week. They're doing 2 a week to get it out to people faster because they've been sort of patiently waiting, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's interesting too, and I don't know if he speculated with like if he gave any reasoning on the live. I started watching the live, and I didn't get to the portion where Dallas was talking specifically about season 4. I was watching the part with the brothers Thunder or whatever their name is, the 2 disciples.
Oh, right. Yeah. Big
And,
James and something else. I can't remember his
Yeah,
brother's name.
they
James and John. Big James and
John.
John.
Yes, they have an account or a group called the Sons of Thunder or something like that. I can
Sure.
put it in the chat if you guys know what it actually is. I
Yeah.
get that wrong, but
There
I
other
didn't
ahead.
get to see what he was saying about it, but I lost my train of thought.
sorry.
Go ahead and say what
So
you watched it.
all right, this is what we'll say. Okay. So I kind of already said this on a video, but I'm going to reiterate because he confirmed it. So they started filming season 5, and
Yeah.
a big thing with season 4. All right, spoilers. It's not detrimental at all to your ability to enjoy it or be, surprised by a thing. But the way the season ends is he is getting ready to enter Jerusalem on
Mhm.
Palm Sunday. All right.
Yeah.
So the city's getting ready. They're buying and picking their palms, and everyone's excited, and they know Jesus is coming. And he's outside the city, and he gives a little speech, and then he gets on the donkey, and they're going into the city. That's how it ends. We got confirmation. The season is going to, as I kind of predicted, they are going to start the season with him entering the city because they said in the live stream, even though they weren't giving spoilers, but then they said this, so it's basically a spoiler. They were filming him entering the city, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So obviously the season 5 is gonna open with him entering the city, and they're gonna do a whole scene. They're not just going to like do the setup and then skip, you know what I mean? Like interesting edit choice or whatever. They're actually going to have the display of him entering the city. The other big thing that we've theorized a lot about here, okay?
Mhm.
And we have confirmation from the live stream. We know there's going to be 7 seasons.
Yep.
We have a pretty good estimation based on when it's going to at what point we're going to end, right? At what
Okay.
point
Yeah.
in the story are we ending
For
in
season
7?
5.
For season 7.
For season 7. Okay.
he said in the live stream, and this is something he said, so this is not spoilers, right? This is like something he said about the end of the season. And
Yeah.
I guess he said it as if he said this before, so maybe we missed it at some point. But season 1 through 7 is covering, he said it is covering the Gospels. And
Mhm.
he said, maybe see, because someone was asking about how far into the New Testament are we going with this show, right? And he said, it's going to cover the Gospels. And he said, maybe in season 7, like towards the end, or some of it is going to get a little bit into the book of Acts.
Yeah.
But he said it's covering the Gospels. So any theory we've had about them going really far past the ascension, they're not
Mhm.
going to.
Oh,
We
yeah.
pretty much got confirmation that the ascension is going to happen in season 7, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
And we've kind of theorized about, is it going to happen in season 6? Is the whole season 7 going to be about the early
About-
church or the disciples or what? And they'll dabble. He said they'll probably dabble a little bit into Acts for the end of season 7, but they're not. The season 1 through 7 is about the Gospels. You
I
know what
would
mean?
I mean, personally, I would end it at Pentecost.
That's
That's
probably
that that would
might be when
be
they
I
end it.
feel like it, since it, it's supposed to be kind of the disciples' journey through this.
Yeah, the chosen.
The Pentecost is really where they get it.
Yeah,
Where
yeah.
they get the indwelling of the Holy Spirit, and they get up and they stand and they speak to the people. That's kind of, I think, the natural cap for the
Right.
season.
Right. I think it's also interesting because if we're entering season 5 with Palm Sunday, that means all of season 5, all
Mhm.
of season 6, and almost all of season 7 is Palm Sunday to the Ascension. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot. That's a lot of seasons. It's a lot of episodes with
Mhm.
kind of a smaller amount of ground, like timeline, right?
Yeah.
So we are getting in deep and we are slowing way down the story to tell this the next couple weeks, right?
So
Mhm.
at this point, maybe we can predict a little bit more. 5 up to the crucifixion, not the crucifixion yet. Season 6 will be
The crucifixion.
like maybe season 5 will end with them arresting Jesus, maybe.
Yeah.
And then we'll have season 6, all of arresting, crucifixion, burial.
Yeah.
Probably
Season
resurrection.
7 will be resurrection, and then
This
everything
is
else.
what I think. This is what I think. I think season 6 is going to end with the resurrection. And I think season 7, they're going to get into that period of time. Do you guys remember how long it is? Is it like a week or is it 2 weeks? I can't
It's
remember how long it was.
I can't
I don't
remember
remember.
either. He shows up. Are you talking about who he shows himself
After
to?
his resurrection, he shows himself to people. There's a lot that happens before he
Yeah,
does
he
before the
first
ascension.
shows himself to who are the 2 disciples that didn't
No.
recognize him?
No,
Mary. Isn't that
Mary.
Mary?
Yes,
Mary
but
didn't.
Mary
but
sees
then
him
there
first.
yes, and then 2 of the disciples see him and don't
40
recognize.
days. 40 days he's alive
Okay.
after the resurrection, before the ascension.
I think season 7 is going to be probably that whole 40 days getting to Pentecost. I think
Mhm.
that's a good prediction of what season 7 is going to be. I think season 6 is going to be crucifixion, or the trial, crucifixion, the death, the resurrection. I think there's so
Right.
much, and the thing is, after the crucifixion, that 3-day window, they're
Yeah.
going to slow way down and show in depth every disciple, every follower.
Every
They're
moment,
going to
yeah.
get really deep into what those 3 days were like for those guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, so when the resurrection happens, it's going to be very intense. It's going to be a big deal. But that just him saying, and maybe he said it before, but just him saying this is the Gospels and a little bit of Acts, right? That tells us exactly what we're sitting at
yeah.
and what we're looking at. Going into season 5, we basically can, I mean, it's kind of obvious what the timeline and series of events and cliffhangers are going to be, right?
Mhm.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It seems pretty obvious at this point. I was very skeptical that they were going to make it to Jerusalem by the end of season 4. I for real thought
Yeah,
we
I
have to tell
I was
more
the only one
story here.
who was saying that they were going to end with, like, Palm Sunday or something.
Which honestly is an interesting creative choice, but it's what they're
Yeah.
it's what they've done. So, so yeah, there's that. There's also a couple interesting things for people that enjoy The Chosen that
Yeah.
he announced that people might be interested in. September, they're doing a Chosen Con. I think they've done this before.
Mhm.
They're having a get together and a live event that they're doing online. So if you don't want to
Is
go
it
in person, right?
what would you say the purpose of cons are? Isn't cons like where you dress up as your favorite superhero and you go to
You don't have to dress
the
up.
con? Are
It's
we
a
gonna dress up as our favorite
it's a conference.
disciple
It's a
or
conference.
It's a conference.
It's where people go and they hear from the creators and the actors, and
We've just
they get
got
insights and
Sure,
exclusive
but
stuff.
like Comic-Con is clearly you go and dress up as the favorite superhero.
but it's
I
like
mean,
we have that we only have that because of Comic-Con, because
yeah.
Comic-Con is so universally known in pop culture. Putting con at the end of something, at the end of a big get together, is kind of the status quo. But
I mean, I don't think
it's just
anybody's
a
gonna hate on
conference,
us if
like
we, you know,
the Chosen conference, the
we
comic
we
conference.
show up
You know,
dressed up like, you know, one of the disciples. I mean, would that be sacrilegious? No, I don't feel like it
as
would.
long as it's like one of the disciples,
I'd like to go
not
dressed up as
Jesus.
Mary Magdalene.
Yeah, you can do that.
All right. So another interesting thing that I'll be looking forward to is apparently, you know how they have the whole thing with like the 5 loaves and 2 fish, so 5 and
Mhm.
2. So on May 2nd, they're doing a big live stream that's going to be, I think, really long, and it's going to be on set. They're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. So I probably look out for. I think it's going to be on the Chosen app. I don't know if it'll be on YouTube, but they're doing a huge live stream on May 2nd. And yeah, and another interesting thing I wanted to briefly discuss with you guys
Okay.
is whenever there's another season released and we put out videos or there's just a lot of buzz around The Chosen, what always comes out of the woodwork, right, is people that are trying to convince everyone that The Chosen show is anti-God and it's of the devil. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Dallas Jenkins is Satan himself.
Right.
And I'm not being I'm not being extreme. That's literally what people say,
Yeah.
okay?
Mhm.
I've seen it in our comment section, and so I wanted to ask you guys. So the board, so they release on the Chosen app these kind of, they call them like round tables, like Bible round tables,
Mhm.
where they, after the, at the end of a season, they discuss details around it, and it consists of a couple people. The main ones is there's a rabbi, there is a Catholic priest,
Mhm.
there's a Protestant pastor that's friends with
And they walk
Dallas
into a
Jenkins,
bar?
and then there's Dallas Jenkins, right? Yeah,
I hate you.
and
I hate that. Why?
well, they walk up to a round table and they do a discussion, like a podcast discussion, and they talk about literally the details of the accounts of the lives of the disciples and
Mhm.
Jesus and everything. And those are the people, like the people at that round table are a part of the committee that is kind of like what's the word when you have people that keep you straight? What is it? Accountability.
Sure.
Homophobes.
Yeah. They're kind of the accountability for the content of the show, right? And
Mhm.
we have different backgrounds. You have a Jewish rabbi, you have Catholic priest, you have Protestant pastors, you have Dallas himself, and they're all, when they're writing, they take these people and they're consulting on the story and making sure that they live within plausibility but not changing scripture, right?
Mhm.
And I wanted to get your guys' initial thoughts just based on that, because there's a lot of people that think that Dallas Jenkins is just shooting from the hip, you know what I mean, and
Mhm.
writing scripts, and that it's all
Preach.
unbiblical and that it's all sacrilegious and that it's all whatever. And it's
Well,
clearly not. They clearly put effort into it. I guess my thought is like, what is your guys' initial reactions to what's like the ideal situation here? You know?
I think they're doing their due diligence as best they can.
yeah,
You know, you've got people trying to make sure that it works, that you can tell a story with characters, right?
Mhm.
Because the people in the show, you know, obviously aren't exactly who the disciples were. They're more characters of them. And what the point is to be like, this is something that could have happened,
Sure.
yeah,
right? It may not be something that happened, but it's something that plausibly could have happened and interactions that they could have had.
Right.
And that is and what it's supposed to do is have the people viewing it identify with the
yeah,
characters in the show, because if they're written exactly as what it says in the Bible, you know, the Bible's not describing the disciples
yeah,
Mhm.
personal lives. It's not describing their, you know, all of every aspect of their temperaments and their interactions, right? And so you have to make it relatable to people.
yeah,
And what they're doing is they're doing their best to make it seem plausible without being without contradicting scripture.
Right.
So this the, growing up, we've you know, there's been quite a few things that we've read as, you know, people who've kind of grown up in the church. And you know, one of the things is uh you know, the Left Behind series. And this is not new for the Jenkins family.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's true.
For
Yeah.
anybody who knows uh, anything about Dallas Jenkins, you know who his dad is. I didn't know this until recently, but we talked about it on a podcast where Dallas Jenkins' dad, and I'm not even sure what his name is, like Gary Jenkins or something like that. Jerry Jenkins, I think.
Jerry Jenkins, yeah.
He's one of the writers for the Left Behind series.
He is the
Well,
you
him
got
and another guy
Jerry
wrote,
B. Jenkins and Tim LaHaye wrote
wrote
Left
the Left
Behind.
Behind series, which was very popular in the 90s and early 2000s. And yes, those were also fiction. I mean, nothing in it is biblical to
Mhm.
the point where they just kind of took scripture and was like, this is what we interpret from what the last days are going to be. Let's create a story based off that. And
Mhm.
I think I've always enjoyed that, even though it's not biblical and not scriptural. I think he's doing the same thing with this, where yes, it's not 100% scriptural.
Well, no, it is
Well, it is
scriptural.
scriptural. Yes, it is scriptural. It is maybe not all in the Bible, though. How
Yeah.
all the thoughts and feelings of these
I
disciples.
think the
So
point though is it can be there can be some fiction elements as long as it's not contradictory to
mhm,
scripture.
Right. Now, let me ask you guys another point that I've seen a lot of people in the comments talking about is the choice to not only make the disciples relatable, but the choice to make Jesus relatable. Meaning they give him very human emotions. They give
Mm.
him very human frustrations, especially in season 4 for people who've seen it. This is like the most honestly, I think season 4 has more screen time for Jesus than any other
Yeah.
season, because it's really focusing on the I don't wanna say insecurities, but there are definitely areas where he is upset and definitely areas where he is, concerned for his followers and their
Mhm.
ability to understand his preaching and messaging.
I think you can say insecurities.
Yeah, but yes, insecurities,
I think Jesus would have had insecurities. He felt all the things that we feel.
sure.
Um and I think the whole point is that Jesus is relatable. I think that's the whole point
yeah,
But
of
that's where a lot of contention comes because
but I think that's the point of the Bible, is that he's
right,
relatable,
right.
right?
When Jesus says, "Be like me," you know what I'm
But
saying?
yeah, to be like Christ.
How do you be like Christ if you don't have anything relatable?
Right. And he related to us. which is a very important part of the Bible. And so, yeah, I think making him relatable is important in the show as well. Because I mean, I've seen a lot of other works where Jesus is portrayed as just being very
Stoic.
stoic and reserved and just kind of,
Nothing shakes him.
he looks around and he knows,
Right.
right?
Right.
Which we know he did. We
But
know when he
there's-
looked, he knew
Well, hold on.
everything.
Let me ask
but-
you this. Let me ask you this. This is kind of a theological question.
Hmm.
But do we, because it says a lot in scripture, it doesn't always say this when it talks about Jesus understanding or knowing the thoughts of people.
Hmm.
But do you think there's also areas where it talks about how basically revelation from the Father? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you think that there was an element of Jesus that's like he didn't know everything because of the choice of humanity, because the making of human, where he wasn't an omniscient being as Jesus, but the
No.
Father revealed to him stuff.
Yeah.
No.
You don't think so? You think he was an omniscient human?
No. I think he was still God.
Yes,
Human, but he was still God.
but you don't. But his physical form wasn't God. His
Right.
physical form was human.
Yeah.
So you think his mind was God and his body was human.
His spirit was God.
His spirit was God, but we also have been given the Spirit of God, and we're still
Mhm.
humans, and we're not all knowing. You know what I mean?
Right, but it's different. Well, because his physical body also wasn't human the way that we're human. He didn't
This
have
is
he didn't have the curse of sin, and then when he rose from the grave, he was what's the word?
triumphant.
No. It's the transfiguration,
Right.
right? Where his human body became perfect,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
his spirit was still God.
Yes. I guess that's a good question. I would love on this round table that I'm talking about. I
Yeah.
would love for them to
hear
discuss
that.
this idea of the omniscient understanding of Jesus as human. You know what I mean? that would
think-
be an
I-
interesting mind thing to throw
I
around.
think it's
amongst
gonna
a
be
group
different
of
depending
listening
on-
people.
Yeah, I think it's going to be different depending on who's all there at the table, and I think it's
But
going to be.
they got a
different
pretty
for all
good
people.
spectrum of people. You
Yeah,
know what I
they
mean?
they definitely do. I've seen a video or two of that.
But that's all the big news that I had. There's a couple
Yeah.
cool things that The Chosen's doing in conjunction with very soon season 4 starting to come out for free on the streaming. And obviously, just because we talk about Chosen and they've given us a lot of views, I'll also say they highly encourage you to buy hard copies of the season, because as soon as they get the green light, they're sending out all the hard copies of the Chosen.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as they get the green
Oh,
light,
they
So
don't have green light for that stuff yet.
they are going to. I don't know everything they have, and
I-
he doesn't go into it. But all that to say, he said on the stream that if you buy a hard copy, you'll have it all, and you don't have to wait for streaming.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
I think I'm still predicting it's something to do with Angel Studios.
Pretty sure it is. He didn't confirm or deny. He did say there's a lot of people speculating online that he saw, that people that's done their own research and everything. And he said, that's neither here nor there for me to talk about. And it's not the point either. Right. So he pretty, because he has to legally, but also because he probably wants to remain on the up and up. Not going to discuss it and not going to divulge the rumors, but yeah, there's for sure it has to do with Angel Studios, because who else would it be?
Yeah.
But that's our
No,
show.
Yeah.
That's our show. Let's wrap it up. You know, if you guys enjoy these topics, if you enjoy the Monday all weekend, let us know down in the comments.
You
Tell us what
mentioned
you-
at the beginning.
Yeah, down in the
Whatever I
comments.
said.
What you guys think of Rebel Moon, Zack Schneider, The Chosen, Dallas Jenkins, all of this stuff going on.
Or even Jerry Jenkins. I
Or
mean, what do you
Jerry
think of
Jenkins.
him?
Tell us what you think of Left Behind.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great series.
Thank you guys for watching. We appreciate you. We'll see you next time on Monday all weekend.